Good morning, everyone out there in the world today. Today is February 6th, 2025, and I am wishing my grandfather, who's featured right here, this is his birthday, Merle Roscoe Meeden, Meeden, was born on February 6th in 1909. And this is him, I think, around 20 years old on his family farm in southern Illinois. I'm going to read to you a few things from his life today. Uh, he came from very humble means, as you can see here. I'm going to expand the picture a little bit. I've done some editing. They only had two horses on their family farm, and here they both are. He names them in his written memoir. You can kind of see, they're posing for the picture. They actually have this metal attachment behind them is how they would drag the plow, uh, like plowing the fields for real. He actually did this he was the youngest of the boys in the family. You can see here's the reins laying on the ground. So definitely workhorses. You can see the harness here around their neck. And this might be one of the attachments behind him. You can see a wheel. This could have been attached. They did not have any kind of mechanized, gas-driven. They were doing things by hand. So this is about right at the time of the Depression, 1929, this era. He came a long way. He lived a good long life. I'm going to show you some of the documents I have from his life, and I'm also celebrating the one-room schoolhouse, sophisticated education that they actually had. I have Merle's, see if we can show this here. This is his eighth grade questions, his monthly examination questions from his county school. This is before the picture we just saw with the horse. And it looks like he at least requested, maybe they just automatically sent the monthly exam questions home for them to see how they did in their classwork. You can see the county. This was a state-driven education. This was not a federally driven education. It was postmarked in Carlinville, Illinois, which is where the county superintendent, George Solomon, lived. I looked this guy up. He actually is a real person as well. This was opened by a committee of three pupils. So this was like an honor system when they were taking the test, I believe, Friday, April 28th, 1922. So 103 years ago. So after he took the monthly exam, they sent to my grandfather, Merle, and he spelled his name a number of different ways. Murrell. You can see is written here in pencil. He didn't need an address back then because everyone knew where the Meeden farm was, and the postmistress would just deliver it in her horse and buggy, and I'm not kidding. You can see it cost 2 cents for this to come to him. I love looking at these old, I can't believe it still exists. Uh, just a little bit more. Questions based on seventh and eighth grade months' work are outlined in the Illinois State Course of Study. So we actually have the questions that came in this envelope. And my husband and I tried to answer some of these, and we both have master's degrees and have had careers in the business world. So it's kind of funny, we didn't even know what some of these questions were. You can see when they were printed. This set of questions was on the topic of or subject of orthography. And I had to look up the word orthography to remind myself or to learn what it was. It was basically like how and the art of writing, how we used words. So that could be grammar, context, punctuation, hyphenation. Uh, so they were trying to standardize, I think, at this point in time. So this was printed in 1920, and he was taking it in eighth grade in 1922. So if he's 1922, what is that? He's 13 taking this test. And he's, also working on the farm with his family to make a living so they could actually eat. So I know I read to you into the record his older sister Louise's poetry about the little red brick on the hill. And this is the schoolhouse, the one-room schoolhouse where they all went. So orthography, eighth grade, answer 5 of the 6 questions. And also please number the answer the same as the question. So here's question 1 you could pick. Define and use in sentences, and they give 4 words. Peritoneum, which is a biology word that some of you may know and some of you may not. Pretense, routine, and a quay, Q-U-A-Y. I learned what a quay was when we were cruising around during the 2000, I'm sorry, for about 2005 to 2019. And I learned that a quay is like where the ship is pulling up to, and it's like where the docks and you're walking along the quay. All right, that was one option. Question number 2. Give the meaning of these prefixes. Pro, retro, C, S-E-E, sub, and trans. So you have to define those 5 prefixes to answer question number 2. 3, state the rule for doubling the final consonant and give 2 illustrations. So I question you here today, do any of you know what a consonant is? Did the Department of Education train you up properly? And then if you doubled a consonant, why would you do that at the end of a word? Analyze and define a word containing the root Greg, G-R-E-G, like the man's name Greg. And then analyze and define a word containing the root ject, J-E-C-T. So they definitely were like learning Latin because that would, and Greek and German, like where did these words come from? So like subject and explaining that word, and analyzing would be like where was the root of that word from? Okay, number 5. How about this one? Can we do this one? Mark and define. So mark and define, like, I think, where's the pronunciations, the number of syllables in these words? Rendezvous, stature, scenic, maintenance, and I think Ptomaine, P-T-O-M-A-I-N-E. Never heard of that word. Or 6, here's your final question. Define accent and ditto, a primitive word. So that's your 6 questions you could pick from. Then here, he was very kind of sensitive for the fact that he only went to 8th grade. Let me see if I can get I wanted to show you his, report card. I might have to just read it to you. Come back to his horse picture. I don't think I have this one pulled up. So his report card, so cute. Look at that. Can't believe it's held up this long. So this report card is from, I think his 8th grade. Doesn't have a date here. So it's 100 years old, but he had all 90s and above. So he had straight A's, or depending on how yes, 100 is perfect and 90 or above is excellent. So he didn't have anything below a 90. So deportment for November, January, and March, Merle had a 90. And deportment, you might have to go look up on Google if you don't know what that that means, but it means behavior, etiquette, how he carried himself as a person. Arithmetic, he had a 96, a 92, and a 90. Good job, Grandpa. Civics, they only had in March. He got a 90 in March. We didn't read any of the civics questions yet. Maybe we'll do that in a different episode. Geography, he had a 92, a 93, and a 92. Grammar, 92, 90, and a 90. This is, while you're going home to farm the field for your supper and clean out the stable and take care of the horses and get water from the well. They had a well, they didn't have running water when he was a child. History, a 90, 92, and a 94. Physiology, a 90 and a 92. Reading, a 94, 92, and 95. Spelling, same, 96, 95, 95. And writing, 90s across the board. So I'm going to just go back and read some of these, just one more set of little questions here. I think these are so sweet. I just want to hold up how like small these little papers are. This is the actual size of the papers. So we're talking about his geography at 92s and 93s. I found this interesting because again, these were printed in April 1920. Answer 5. What and where is Shantung? Shantung. So again, he's living on a little farm in southern Illinois in his one-room schoolhouse, and these are the monthly exam questions he's answering. Describe the climate and the people of Arabia. So at the time, it wasn't called Saudi Arabia, it was Arabia. 1920. 3, name 5 important islands in the Pacific Ocean. Not just any 5, but the 5 important ones. 4, write a sentence each about the climate, soil, products, people, and government of the Philippine Islands. So you have to write one sentence each. So I kind of think you might not pick this one because you had to do so many things. So you had to write a sentence about the climate, soil, the products, the people, and the government of Philippine Islands. Locate a region in Africa rich in diamonds and in gold. 6, name the groups of the principal countries as classified by the state course of study. The Illinois State Course of Study, not the Department of Education, with reference to the World War. So this would be World War I. World War II had not happened yet. And it had just kind of wrapped up, so be fresh in their minds. Name the groups of the principal countries as classified by the State Course of Study with reference to the World War. And 7, pick 5 of the 7. The last choice. Explain how the dropping of a ball from the top of a high tower proves the rotation of the earth. Let me say that again. Explain, Mr. Little 8th grader farmer, how the dropping of a ball from the top of a high tower proves the rotation of the earth. I don't know if I could do that like without having to go look something up, right? And so this is geography. So Grandpa, you did great. You got a 92, a 93, and a 92 in November, January, and March. So we don't know how he did on the 4th. This would be the final one. So we only have his little report card for through the first 3 quarters. The 4th quarter wasn't written on there. So very interesting. Let me come back to his picture one more time. Oh, let me show you what happened to him. So this is him as the farmer. Here is him as a little boy. And Louise is the poetess that we talked about before. And this, I found this after I made that, I think it was like episode number 3, The American Poetess, about Louise Fern Meeden. And I didn't have the labels of these two. This is Louise over here on the left. This is Gladys on the background. So Louise was the poet right here on the far left. And this is Grandpa Merle. So the family's marking, they're not sure if it was 1917 or 18. So this was during World War One. He was born in 1909 on today's date, February 6th. So he would be 8 or 9 years old in this photo. So they're on the farm. When these boys got older, they witnessed their father's death on the farm when they were trying to bring down a tree for their firewood, which they did all the time because that was how they heated their home. The tree fell on their father, and they had to carry him home on a piece of, I think, a wood plank board or in the wagon. And he died a few days later from the wounds he sustained from the farming injury. So it was dangerous work. I think he was a teenager when that happened. I'd have to double check the dates on that, but not an easy life. So of these 4 boys, these 3 of them went to seminary. And my grandfather, Merle, became a Baptist minister who served many different congregations in the Michigan and like northern Illinois area. He ended up dying in 1986, and he worked hard to make up for his education since he only had an 8th grade education, which we see how much more he probably knew than many of us graduating from the broken school systems of today. Merle, my grandfather, he lived to 1986. He died at the age of 77, and he had a long, productive life as a Baptist minister. He died in Howell, Michigan, which I have a lot of information about that town and the town's history and other people from Howell because of my grandmother saving it all. And my grandfather here writing it down. They recorded a number of memoirs that they wrote at the end of their lives. Here's just one little clip I found. I didn't show this is a little clip from his diary. I'm not sure why I only have one page, but it's March 25th, 1938. So it's right before he marries my grandmother, and he's at, I think, Moody Bible Institute, and he's studying like his first year before he graduates officially from college. This is in Chicago, Illinois. So Moody Bible Institute, a lot of people during the Depression could go there, and there were women, it wasn't just men. And he had to work while he was there to pay his way. His brother went ahead of him, so he was kind of following his older brother's footsteps. So he was up at 7 a.m. on March 25th, 1938. He attended 2 classes, and he felt so bad that I went back to bed. I finally got up and went to work. Felt better towards evening. Eye and face hurt me. To bed early, nervous. So I think he must have been suffering from, some disability, like injury potentially. They all had really bad flu in like the 1918 pandemic. So he seemed to have like recurrences from that. Somehow I heard that he had had malaria, but I don't know if that really makes sense because he didn't leave the country till later as a missionary. 1939, March 25th, he slept until 9:45 a.m., got up feeling refreshed. It was a lovely day, more liberty, which I think means time off, than I had known for a week. So I think he was working as a doorman. It was 70 degrees outside. more liberty than I had had known for a week. I called E, which is my grandmother Eunice, in the afternoon, and something about Bernard and wanted to rest. Who wants to rent us an apartment? So this is when they're trying to get married, and they ended up getting married, I think beginning of June 1939. So I think he's writing a couple months before, like how they're trying to figure out their life together. It's kind of interesting to see and it's the way he's doing it. It's like it's an intentional diary, like year by year. So you could have basically like a 5-year diary for March 25th. So you could look back and see exactly what you did on March 25th of each of the years. So he has 1938 and 1939. And then on the back, he has March 26th, 1938 and 1939. So it's like just like looking back through time, kind of like what we do with our iPhotos. I'm like, oh, this is what I was doing on, this day. So in 1938, when he was sick, the following day he slept for 10 hours and he got up feeling better, a better mental attitude. My face didn't hurt me, less nervous, studied about 1 hour, doorman, which was his job. The weather was cool but nice. Home in a good time to bed early. So I don't know what happened to his face. If there was maybe he had a tooth abscess or something. So then a year later, March 26th, 1939, it's Sunday, overslept by 1/2 hour, but made it in time for work. It rained in the afternoon, attended YP, which is Young People's, which was an international organization of like youth groups across denominations. And I actually have a book by the man that started that group, Young People's. It was it became like pretty powerful, like I think lobbying kind of group. More on that later. He goes to the church, then he's at the doorman, had a good time, went to the Young People's. They went for a walk, had a lovely time with E, his fiance, and then eventually his beloved wife and my grandmother. So happy birthday, Merle. Oh, I forgot to read what he has written here. This is, I think his actual handwriting, they would kind of inscribe it in some kind of like white ink. So it's Merle Roscoe Meeden. And First Corinthians is a book in the Bible in the New Testament. It was written by Paul, the Apostle Paul, or Saint Paul, if you're Catholic. And he wrote it to the church in the city of Corinth, which I think is like, well, it's up in the Asia Minor area. So today I have to check what country that would be. I think it's still maybe Greece. Chapter 15, verse 57. So what does that say? But thanks be to God, which gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Happy birthday, Grandpa.